Rayhana Khan waited for Babikar in the same restaurant he had told her to meet him every Saturday. Their usual routine every Saturday was for him to update her on the developments of her case. Rayhana spent nearly 4 hours waiting for him, mechanically ordering items from the menu until her stomach protested. She knew that if she stopped ordering the waiters would kick her out. However, after 4 hours she concluded that Babikar had either forgotten about their meeting or else he was too ill to keep his appointment. She did not have any other way to contact him or reach him by phone. She returned to her slum and waited the next day. Her main worry was about the tickets and visas that he had given her. He told her he would meet her on the following Saturday and get them back from her. Then he would give them back to her on the day of her flight. Rayhana was very careful to keep her important travel documents safe. She fastened them inside her pocket all day, and when she fell asleep at night she put them under her blanket and slept on them. Slum people and chawl dwellers don't use beds. They simply put a blanket or mattress on the floor and sleep on it. From the day the Sudanese boy had given Rayhana the share of currency her Saudi benefactor had so liberally furnished, she had not spent more than 100 rupees out of the 10,000 rupees she received. She was so grateful and thought there must be so much money lying on the streets of Saudi Arabia, this was just a drop in the bucket. Soon she would be able to swoop up all the money off the streets of Saudi Arabia and all her worries for her family would disappear. Since she had never received such a huge amount of money, all at one time, she was careful to safeguard it and spend it wisely. She tore a long piece of cloth from her dress and made something like a belt. She tied up the notes of currency and wrapped the belt of money around her privates as if it was an adult diaper. After that, she put on her underwear and the rest of her clothes and came out. For 2 days, she did not change her underwear or remove her clothes except when she needed to answer the call of nature. She was afraid someone could see right through her and sense she had a secret vault wrapped around her private parts and kill her for thousands of rupees. Rayhana was also scared to go to the bank because the management of the bank might accuse her of stealing the 10,000 rupees from someone and call the police to arrest her. Besides that, she had no address to give to the bank. She had never saved more than 400 rupees from all her hard work slaving for the rich. By the way, the cheapest labor rate in the world was in India. There was nothing called minimum wage in that country where the majority of its citizens were living under the poverty level. When Rayhana got tired of hiding her treasure under her clothes, she decided to create her own personal bank. On the 3rd day night, while her mother, children, and all her slum neighbors were sleeping, she woke up and, like a thief in the night, she took a knife and dug a hole in one corner of her slum. Then, she removed her money belt and carefully buried it in the hole. Whenever she needed some money, she would get up in the middle of the night, open her underground bank, and take out what she needed. Nevertheless, Rayhana was scared her important traveling papers might get destroyed if she deposited them in her underground bank where she kept her thousands of rupees. Her savings grew when Babikar gave her 5,000 rupees more. With so much money, Rayhana stopped feeding her children dal and rice. She bought a chicken and cooked it for them. Before she became rich among slum dwellers, necessity forced her and her children to endure vegetarian diets although they were not Hindus. Rayhana waited for 7 days before she went to the same restaurant again and waited for Babikar. After 3.5 hours of waiting and ordering food, tea, and coffee, she got up and went back to her slum. This time she felt very sad. She thought perhaps the Negro boy had died or something had happened to him. She remembered Babikar had told her that her sponsor had booked her flight and he gave her the departure date. Rayhana simply convinced herself that maybe she had misunderstood what Babikar told her when he gave her the tickets and visas. Maybe he wanted her to go to the airport on that day and meet him there, and then he would get her and her daughter onto the plane and send them to the rich Arab country of Saudi Arabia. There were only 2 days left for her scheduled departure date when Rayhana came to this conclusion. Therefore, she went to the market and bought nice dresses for her daughter and for herself. After 2 days, she revealed her hidden treasure to her mother and told her to use the money to feed her grandchildren and herself. She even gave the $500 to her mother. She took only 500 rupees with her. Then, she took her daughter and headed to the airport. She carried a small piece of hand luggage. She did not know where the airport was located. She did not want to take a taxi for she was afraid that the driver might kidnap and rape her. She had heard stories from some slum women about how young women were kidnapped and raped by their taxi drivers. Wherefore, she decided to take the local bus to the airport. Rehana had never been to an airport before. She went to the bus station and asked someone to tell her which bus would take her to the airport. She did not mention which airport she was going to. The person she asked looked at her and at her bag and concluded that she was going to the domestic airport. For that reason, he told her which bus would take her there. She took the bus and went to the Santa Cruz domestic airport. When Rehana reached the domestic airport along with her daughter, she sat on a bench and told her daughter to sit on her lap because the bench was crowded with people. One curious Indian woman of wealthy descent asked her why was she at the airport. Rehana told her that she came to take a trip on the airplane. The woman was surprised and then asked her which city in India she was traveling to. The Indian woman asked her this question because she could not believe that a slum woman like Rehana could possibly afford to buy an airplane ticket. Rehana said to the rich woman that she was flying to Saudi Arabia. The rich woman burst out laughing when she heard the name of the country the slum woman said she was going to. Then, she said to her still laughing, "You need to have visas and tickets to go to a country like Saudi Arabia and you would need at least 500,000 rupees to buy the visas and tickets for you and your daughter." Rehana smiled at the rich Indian woman who was questioning her and looking down upon her because of her appearance. She then opened her small bag, took out the tickets and visas, and showed them to the rich woman. The woman's eyes widened with her mouth agape when she saw the travel documents. She took 5 minutes examining them to determine if they were genuine. Then, she asked Rehana how did she come about getting her visas and tickets. Rehana told her truthfully that an old Arab man had gifted them to her. The woman did not believe Rehana, however, she told her that she was in the wrong airport. Then she told her she had to take a taxi and go to the Sahara International Airport, which was in Andheri. Rehana trusted the words of the rich woman, took her daughter, and left the airport. Again, once she got outside she did not take a taxi but asked a man to tell her which bus would take her to the international airport. The man was surprised when she asked him this. He too couldn't believe a woman like Rehana had any business at an international airport. She did not look like a passenger or a person who would travel abroad. In spite of what he thought, he didn't think it was his business to question her any further. He told her the name of the bus that goes from the domestic airport to the international airport and then turned around and walked away. Rehana and her daughter waited for the bus for more than half an hour before it came and she asked the bus driver if this were the bus that goes to the international airport. He also had a hard time understanding why a slum woman would be going to the international airport, but he said yes and she and her daughter climbed in. Rehana did not know the time of her flight. She was illiterate and hence could not read the time on their tickets. She and her daughter also did not have their passports. Nevertheless, she convinced herself that the Negro boy would be waiting at the airport for her with their 2 passports. When they reached the Sahara International Airport, Rehana began to look for the black boy everywhere. She did not remember his name or where he came from. All this time, Rehana was under the impression that Babikar was an Indian like herself. Some people in India, if you were to ask them where is New York or London in which country, they would tell you New York is in Bombay and London is in New Delhi. Rehana had no clue where Babikar came from. She knew he was different from other Indians because he was black and had hair like raisins. Moreover, everywhere she went with him she heard other Indians calling him Negro. She thought that Negro was an honorable title. In order to show respect for this very important and honorable person, on the day when he handed her first allotment of 10,000 rupees, she said to him in Hindi, "Shukriya Negrogi, which means thank you the great Negro. Anyway, Rehana and her daughter kept walking from place to place inside the huge airport searching for their great Negro. They walked and searched until fatigue overtook them and they sat down to rest. At the place where they rested, there happened to be a black woman who looked like their great Negro. Rehana saw that the woman was a black woman and thought that she was either Babikar's wife or sister. Therefore, she began to talk to her. The black woman did not understand what the Indian woman was saying to her because she did not speak Hindi. Even so, she spoke to an old Indian man sitting nearby in English and requested he help translate for her. The old man talked to Rehana in Hindi and then he told the black woman in English that she was looking for a black boy who looked like your husband or your brother. The black woman laughed and said that she wasn't married nor did she have a brother in India. She then added that she was from South Africa and flying en route to Johannesburg. She told the old man to ask Rehana which country was she flying to along with her cute daughter. When the old man translated for Rehana what the black woman has asked, she took out her tickets and visas and showed them to the black woman. The South African woman looked at the tickets and shouted loudly, "Oh my God! They only have half an hour before takeoff." Then, she stood up, grabbed Rehana by the hand, and pulled her up to her feet. Rehana got scared and was stunned when the black woman took her by the hand and pulled her to get up. She looked at the old man for explanation. The man told her to go with her. He further explained that she had to hurry up because there were only a few minutes left before her plane would be taking off. Calm returned to Rehana after the old Indian man reassured her it was okay to go with the woman and she then turned to pick up her daughter. The South African woman did not let go of Rehana's hand and kept leading the way through the airport. When they reached the end of the long departure hall, they found 4 security men guarding the entrance to the departure corridor. The South African woman spoke to the security men in English. After that, she took the visas and tickets from Rehana's hands and showed them to one of the security men. The man waved his hand and allowed them to enter. The woman then rushed Rehana and her daughter through the corridor. When they reached the crowded departure room, there were 12 checkpoints and 12 lines of passengers waiting impatiently. The woman kept pulling Rehana right past all the lines of people standing and waiting. When they got beyond the last line, the woman found an air hostess and asked her which of the checkpoints was processing the papers of passengers going to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The air hostess told her that she was one of the crew of the Saudi Arabian aircraft. The air hostess then asked the black woman whether she was flying on this particular flight. The South African woman did not answer and grabbed Rehana's tickets and visas from out her hand and showed them to the air hostess. The air hostess told her she had been looking for these 2 passengers because it was the final call and the doors were about to be closed in a few minutes. Then she asked Rehana in English about her boarding cards. The South African woman interceded and told her they had not gotten their boarding cards yet. Without saying a word further, the air hostess took Rehana's hand and rushed her and her daughter to the nearest checkpoint. The air hostess then spoke to an Indian clerk in English and explained to him that there was less than 10 minutes left for boarding the aircraft. The Indian man took the tickets and visas from the air hostess and glanced quickly at them. He checked the computer and verified the booking of Rehana Khan and her daughter, Ifat Khan, for the flight to Saudi Arabia. After that, he took out 2 boarding cards and quickly filled them out and gave them to the air hostess. Some of the passengers who were standing in line for a long time voiced their displeasure and objections to the Arab air hostess and the airport official who had allowed others to jump ahead of them. The air hostess ignored their complaints and started jogging towards gate 15 with Rehana and her daughter in tow. As they made their way to the gate, the South African woman smiled and waved goodbye to them. Rehana did not bother to look back and thank the woman. However, her 7-year-old daughter turned around and waved her little hand back at the black woman who had helped them. The South African woman was very pleased to know that she had done a good deed to help an inexperienced passenger just in time to avoid missing her flight. However, neither the kind South African woman nor the hasty Arab air hostess would be happy if they knew they had just broken the law and sent 2 passengers out of the country without their passports.